Welcome to another episode of Salt Air. My name is Tom Hatch, the creator of Salt and the CTO of SaltStack. With me today, I have our Vice President of Product, Alex Pei. We wanted to talk a little bit today about the new security operations features that are inside of SaltStack 6.0. Some of these security operations features take us into a new realm for SaltStack, but also allows us to take our unique perspective on infrastructure and apply it to the security space to ensure that we get better, real security implemented inside of infrastructures. Alex, what can you tell us about the new SecOps products?
I think one of the most interesting thing about our SecOps module that we'll be releasing is that while it is a new market that we're moving into, it doesn't really change the way we approach systems. SaltStack's always had a very action-oriented posture when it comes to how we manage systems and how we do configuration management. And that gives us, I think, a very unique perspective on anything that deals with systems. And as we've looked at the security market in general, what we've seen is that most companies that are vendors for security software today don't have that same action-oriented mindset, right? They want to scan and provide a report, and they want to call that an action. But our view is that's coming up well short of what the goal should be. And so with our config management, event-driven automation, and remote execution kind of heritage, it allows us to do what security tools always should have been able to do. Give you insight to where a problem is, and then let you take the appropriate action to make sure that you don't continue to have that problem. And so I think it's one of those areas where we're expanding the notion of what Salt can do, but the power of what Salt's always had has made it kind of a no-brainer for this particular area.
Yeah, no, and it's something that I'm really excited about. I was able to work very closely with the teams on developing this system. And I was able to work with them on making sure that we were able to reliably deliver content around security in a big way. What are some of the big changes? I mean, what does a security team and an infrastructure team look like today that we can actually change that communication level between these teams, not just how we can apply SALT to security?
Sure. So one of the things that we've found as we've gone out and talked to a lot of customers is that the security and the operations teams often are separated either organizationally or just philosophically. And what that results in is a lot of inefficiency. It results in problems, it results in pain, it results in suffering. When I've talked to customers, I think the best analogy for that is what we saw with DevOps a number of years ago. Right? The security teams will come in like a developer team used to and throw something over the wall and say, hey, operations team, go take care of this. And that disconnect makes it so that there's a lot of wasted effort, there's a lot of friction. But the reality is both those teams, like the dev and the ops side, have a common goal, just like the security and the operations side have a common goal. And so if we can provide a tool set that both of these groups are comfortable with and they can collaborate in, then we can start to remove those barriers of communication, which makes it so that both teams can accomplish their goal, can have confidence in their compliance, and be able to move forward in a state that they all know is secure, is compliant, and is the best for the company based off their defined policies.
But doesn't that introduce a problem? I mean, security and operations teams don't talk for a reason. It's easy for a security team that doesn't necessarily understand how the application works or how the infrastructure is set up. I mean, if they've got access to the same tool that the operations team has, then they might cause problems purely because they're not in the weeds in the same way that the operations team is. How do we address that?
Sure. And so one of the key areas of SaltStack Enterprise is role-based access control. And within that security module, you continue to have that fine-grained ability to manage who can touch what and what they can do on those specific systems. So in this case, it's very easy to go in and say a security team can run an assessment across a certain set of minions, but only the operations team can run that remediation. And where the key for SaltStack Enterprise and SecOps is in that content piece. Because the reality is, if we take something like a Center for Internet Security, the security teams expect that assessment to be run against that CIS standard. And then the operations team should be running the remediations off that same standard. And in this case, with role-based access control, you can set that up so that it's two sides of the same coin. Whereas before, what we see typically today is we have one tool that the security team is operating that is defined a CIS standard one way, and the operations teams goes out and creates their scripts to fix what they think was the problem, but it's not a common view of what that standard is. And so the content becomes the linchpin of making sure everybody's collaborating correctly, and then the role-based access control makes sure that only the right people are doing the right parts of this process.
That's fantastic, because that was one of the major concerns that we ran into when we were architecting this. Over and over and over again, we would talk to operations teams who would say, I have given my security team power and they've messed things up. And over again, the security team came back and said, I wish I was closer to what operations was doing so that we can actually achieve the posture that we're trying to get to. It was very disconcerting how often we would talk to security teams who frankly express that they don't feel like they're ever going to accomplish their goals. And similarly with the operations teams coming back and saying, yeah, the security team gives me a report, but I'm never going to finish this. Some of the rooms that we've been in have actually been quite startling. One time we were talking to a major company that actually does some security work. And one of the operations teams said, yeah, we do the absolute minimum because there's no way that we can keep up with enforcing a complete CIS policy or even enforcing the complete policy that the security operations team wants us to enforce. And the chief security officer was in that room. And the look of shock on her face as she turned to this engineer in the operations team was frankly priceless. What we were trying to do is make that gap go away, make that communication actually happen between those teams. At the heart of it, if we can accomplish communication between these teams, then we can actually deliver real security. And the only way that we can have that communication get built isn't by making a chat room. It's by making communication over the real action, making the tools that allow both teams to stand on the same pedestal but operate in their own validity and in their own scope to accomplish the goals that they're trying to accomplish. Alex, is there anything else that we missed on this topic that you'd like to cover?
I think the one thing to just highlight is around the goals aspect of it. I think this goes without saying, but I think it's important to put a pin in it, and that is the fact that these teams have the same goal, and it is to make sure that the company is successful. And kind of the underlying goal of that is to do so without ruining their work-life balance. And if we fix those communication issues, we can help provide the ability to reduce the amount of time that's spent in inefficient processes, make the company more secure, make sure that people get home in time and spend time with their family.
That's right. If people can leave on time on Friday and not have to leave a family party on Saturday because of an issue or because, heaven forbid, they got hacked, then that does accomplish a significant portion of the goal that we're trying to accomplish. At the end, we need to remember that we're creating software, not just to solve a bunch of abstract data center problems, but to actually try and make people's lives better.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. Thanks for watching. I'm glad that we were able to have this chat about SecOps and some of the new approaches that we're introducing to the market over here at SaltStack. And I'm extremely excited about our ability to take this powerful platform that has been built by this massive community over these last many years and apply it to targeted situations and solutions that can allow us to really get into companies and make a big difference with a minimal overhead so that they can get on the ground running quickly and accomplish and solve serious problems. Thanks, Alex. Thanks for watching.